So we are starting the hair part of our rock star portrait. We've done all of the watercolor. Our watercolor is nice and dry, so we have a dry surface to work on. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be making the crazy hair for our rock star. Now, of course, for your rock star portraits, you could do any kind of crazy hair shape. I have 3 neon colors. I've got this neon yellowish color, chartreuse, which I'll be using. And then I've got this fluorescent glowing green and this orangey fluorescent red color. Okay, and I'll have little cups on a tray for each table with the cups like this, and a large brush for each cup. They're watered down a little bit so that they're going to be a little on the runny side. They're not like typical tempera paint. And then you're going to have a straw that looks something like this. It's a paper straw, so no, they haven't been used before. And when it gets a little sloppy on the end from you blowing on it, you can simply just take a scissors and trim that little sloppy end off, and it'll be nice and clean and ready to go again. One thing about blowing on them is you don't want to mush your lips up on the end too much, or it does not blow very well. Another thing is if you're blowing straight down, like if I'm holding it here and my mouth is here blowing this way, it doesn't move the paint very well. You want to kind of have your straw horizontal. And what I've found, I'm actually going to move my camera here. What I've found is if this is the edge of my table here, you can kind of see my hand on the edge of the table. It kind of helps to have your paper right near the edge of the table, working towards the edge, or working on the edge of the table. And you can bend your paper down. Let me just adjust this a little bit more and change my light a little bit. Is that then you can kind of get real close to the edge, and while you're bending down, and you can see, here's my face, and you can kind of see how you can move back and forth, and then you can actually control the paint better than if you're just right on the table. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to start by putting a couple little dribbles here right along the top of his head. And then I'm going to start blowing the paint. Okay, so you're going to start at an angle like this. And notice how I'm close to the paint. And I move as I blow. And I kind of do strokes almost with it. Now, as you're blowing, you want to get the paint right up to the edge, and you might have to turn your paper a little bit. And as you get right up to the edge, you're going to want to add a little bit more, and then have the ability to kind of blow little streaks out. So you can kind of see how that hair gets a little kind of crazy, so to speak, right here in this area. And then you can kind of continue with that. If you put a little bit more, you can kind of change the direction or add more. I want it to kind of go right over his ear, so I'm going to turn it around a little bit and work down. And so you can kind of have it sticking out there, and that looks a little more interesting. And we left a lot of room up here, so you have a lot of freedom with what you want to do on the top. And we can always cut it down too if it gets to the point where you've got your hair pretty crazy looking, and you don't want to make it any bigger. But so as you get the idea now, I'm gonna kind of speed up here. And it's hard for me to see what you guys are seeing while I'm doing this, so bear with me, and Mr. Lundgren, fast forward it if you need to. And as you're working, of course, if you start getting lightheaded, take a break and take some nice calm breaths. You can kind of see how that's working. Okay, so we're getting some kind of crazy hairdo there. Okay, so you can kind of see how I've been blowing it in kind of tendrils or in lines out from where I set it. Okay, so that could kind of be, if we zoom it out a bit here, it could be my crazy rock star hair portrait there. You can kind of see how I just did blobs along the top and then reworked it using the brush or the straw. Then if you want to go back and kind of cover over that line, if you can still see the headline, you can kind of go back over and add some more paint on. Don't screw up the edges though, because the edges should look nice and crazy and kind of interesting around the edges of the head. But if you want to add some more into the middle, you can do that. And if you want to add some more onto the sides or something and re-blow some edges, that might be cool too. There we go. So I think I'll call that done. When you're done at your table, the last person is going to make sure they clean out those brushes and bring the tray back to the back table or that back rolly cart so that they can be put away for the next class.